Okay, looks like I am live and online, and so thank you all for attending. And today we are again still in the coronavirus, and I'm going to go over that because if you watch the news and you're aware day to day, then you're probably aware of the fact that we've been through rioting and masses of people gathering together and masses of people forcing, to be able to open up restaurants and other businesses in their cities or their towns and their county. And, just standing there with their rebel flags and their guns all ready to go, to make the mayor change the law and make it possible for everybody to go back to work. We watched that, and then we saw a process in which a man was murdered by a police officer by suffocation, and we witnessed that. Yeah, and masses of people got pretty upset from that, and there were a number of events like that that went on in the same week. That created an enormous amount of violence in the term of people getting out on the street and rioting. Yeah, and because it was a lot of pimped up anger in mainly the black community and people who support that process of trying to find human rights, and maybe in their life or other people's lives, but everybody's anxiety came to a point. Yeah, and so windows were knocked in, cars were burnt, everything was done just like it was in Watts. Yeah, I don't know if you were there, but I was, and I witnessed Watts. I lived less than 20 miles from Watts. I watched all of this take place many times before. I've watched it happen and watched a president get shot. I've watched, people get killed one time after another. Martin Luther King and many others, Gandhi, all get caught around this cycle of time where people are doing this relationship to violence and aggression and hostility. And it's mainly a very dark force that has been instituted on the planet where incredibly rich people take advantage of masses of people, and it makes these people highly frustrated. They even sell their bodies, they sell their souls, they traffic them. We see that in the news every day. So none of this is stopped. Yeah, none of it. Yeah, you cannot, in 1970 to 1990, if you were black, you could not rent or buy a house in many neighborhoods throughout the United States unless it was a black historical area in which black people had lived. Yeah, that's horrifying. Yeah, and in the 1960s through the 70s, we had violence and fires and deaths through the process of trying to make this change. Yeah, so it's not a process in which this is new. It's a process that we've been evolving through for a long time. We went through the Civil War. That was incredibly violent. Look what we did. We killed our brothers and sisters, our uncles. We fought in a war where we were against our own family, our own relatives. Yeah, so that was a heck of a burden of evil karma, of masses of people who enslaved people, all the way from George Washington and before. So all of that leads to bad karma, leads to demons in the body, demons in place of the soul. And they fight to keep these demons in the body. They don't want to lose them. And that's where violence comes in. It's the demons in the body that are in the body, that have been put in the body, that are subjecting the body and the emotions to the process of the demon. And the demon comes in the form of a landowner, basically, more than any. It's a landlord. And who's a landlord? Who's a person who owns a lot of land? Well, the Queen of England pretty much owns the earth, a good portion of that. Look at all the hate and anger that's happening in England today. People are gone so crazy, stir-crappy crazy from demons inside their body, that they can make no sense as to the reason as to why they're violently against their neighbor. People they don't even know. And they have a history of violence. Yeah? I have a Dharma center in Glastonbury where a man has come into the Dharma center and threatened the group. with violence, saying, I just moved in, I don't like you, and I have a history of violence. So just know I'm going to come back, and I'm going to just torture you until the end of the day. And watch TV and check this out, and you'll see many channels in England showing this is an ongoing event. Yeah, my only answer to my Dharma center was go to the immediate martial arts center, sign up, and learn martial arts, preferably Aikido, preferably the use and the right use of the stick. Yeah, I'm a brown belt in martial arts, just short of a black belt. I was trained in that at 18 years old, and I've been practicing it all the way until I was 40 years old. So that process to me is built in, something you got to do. I have been beaten, I've been tortured, I've been thrown out of buildings, and I've had people do shit to me you can't imagine that could be done to someone and still exist. So I had to defend myself. I didn't want to learn to pick up a gun, a knife, or any weapon. But I had to learn to defend myself. And everybody needs to do that in this life, in this cycle of time. So violence and aggression is what we're up against. And it's mainly due to the greed, the amount of money that's put into this planet and make manifest the amount of energy that seduces people into thinking that they had to buy a house at a very large price. In 1970, from 1950 to 1960, houses on an average in California, houses on an average was $12,000 to $25,000. $12,000 to $25,000. A two-bedroom house, a yard, a backyard, a neighborhood. Even had a sidewalk. Lights were coming up within 5 years. And all of this is taken care of at $12,000. $12,000 at about $190 a month was your mortgage. And and that went from 1970 to 1980 in the little city of San Diego. It went from a $55,000 house, where they had gone up from 1950 to 1970, they went up to $55,000 house to an $85,000 house. And now those same houses are selling for $500,000 and $600,000, and that's only a 30-year, 40-year period. So who's doing this? It's the real estate agent. It's the people who are making the money, who's got the money, and they're in their mind. They're going to raise this house price up when they get in there. And they're going to make people think that, they're building buildings over here. They're going to do a great big auditorium over here and a great school sitting over here. This is a great place for people to live. We need to raise it up. Get people in here who will pay a whole lot more money to come in here, because there's an illusion around buying property. That property is an income-based situation. It's as though you are automatic thinking in your mind, I'm going to profit by owning property. I'm going to profit by owning a house. I'm going to get a better house after I sell my house, because I kept it for 5 years. And after 5 years, I get an extra $30, $40, $50, $60, maybe $100,000 on that house. And I can move from that house to a nicer house. And that's the dream. That's the dream. And that's an illusion. Because you don't include the car. You don't include everything that comes with it. And you do not understand the housing reality. That you yourself, the consumer, who thinks that they're stuck into this dream. And that dream is what's killing you. The dream, thinking that you're going to make more money on this house next time you go. So now, when you're in that block and everybody's selling their house and you bought your house at $550,000, now 5 years later, those houses sell for $900,000. This is in Silicon Valley. A regular $500,000 house within 5 years has gone up to $1 million. And that doesn't matter if that house is junked out, trashed, and got weeds and never been lived in for 5 years. It's still going to go for $1.5 million. And what happens with that? Well, the neighbor next door goes, whoa, how much did you get for your house? I got $1 million. I only paid $500,000. I'm selling. So the whole block, all the blocks, everywhere around, start selling. Then you get these people who are taking the Chinese people and the Japanese people who are buying these houses and putting advance money into these houses. They take them in busloads and drive them around into San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and they stand there whooping up the fact that these houses have gone up 50%, 70%, 40%. These are all people going, oh, great, investment. You know, I'm going to do the same. 4 years later, I will have 30%, 40%, 50%. And whatever $1 million I invest, I'm going to get a grand amount of income out of that. Yeah. So this is destroying the people who live in those houses. Destroying them. It's forcing them out of the house. They cannot pay the mortgage. And in most cases, those houses are being leased and not sold. Being leased. So when people move in, they're getting a lease now for $4,000 to $5,000 a month, where right across the street it's only $1,200 a month. That's because that house isn't worth $1 million. But the house over there has now sold for $1 million, and now they've raised their leases. So all the leases are going to go up in your block. All the leases are going to go up in your community. Yeah? And they have no law to stop that from happening. So the leases can go up as much as 300%. When a house goes to 500 to 1 million. 300%. A $2,000 rent lease goes to $9,000. And you can't leave that house. You got to move out. You can't stay at it. You can't balk. You can't complain. You can't do anything. You got to go. Yeah? And where do you go? Where do you go? You know, how do you pack up and get out and move? You know, when houses are going up to $1 million and any part of the area that you live in, that you have a business, that you've been living in for over 20 years, you know, you can't do it anymore. You know, so that is what's the cause of this real estate ownership. That's what causes everything. Yeah. The main thing is real estate, because in real estate, there's also another delusion put on top of it. When real estate is purchased, the people in community, the tax people, the people of the government, they look at these people who bought houses and they go, they're higher income. Well, what do you know about that? Higher income means higher tax. And that way we can now, in the state of California, put an enormous amount of money into the tax systems, taking it out of the houses. But these are houses where people have gone up in price, you know, to $900,000, and they're paying taxes on that, and they can afford it because they're the people who bought that house. But the people who are now living in that house, and right across the street, just around the road, you know, all their houses are going up too, and they cannot afford it anymore. Yeah. So all of this is happening because of real estate. Real estate, the owning of land. The owning of land is where the evil begins. That's where it begins. That's why the Native Americans said, look, we want land, but we want you to give us the land. Now, we don't really want to sell it to you, but we want you to give it to us. So it's been a long time in the process of them going, okay, we'll take this much money, you know, and instead of being able to get back their land. They want to go back to South Dakota. They want to go back to Wyoming. They want to go back to all the places that they lived, that they owned this enormous amount of life. Yeah. And there were millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of them. Yeah. So there's none of that is in the process in the Native American. Their mind is set in right relationship. There's some that have fallen off into the American thought form and the American dream and the whole greed thing. Yeah. But 80 to 90% of them are all still in the spirit of the Native Americans, still have a relationship of spirit, knowing that spirit, you cannot buy a physical object like the earth. You can't do it. Yeah, you can caretake it. Yeah, you can have the blessing and the opportunity to maintain that land and do your best to maintain that land, the animals on it, the farming on it, everything that happens on it, and your lifestyle that happens on that land. And that's a very Native American attitude. Yeah, because everything we do goes into spirit, into that land, into our clothes, into our making of an object, into anything. Spirit goes into it. So we really can't own the land because we're actually blessed by the land. Yeah. And if you don't understand this, if you can't get a head around this, you know, you're never going to make it over the next 400 or 500 years of reincarnation. You know, you'll still be following this dream. And you will be following the real estate owners, the people, and you'll want to be one of those people. You'll want to own real estate. You'll want to do that. Yeah? It's a major thing inside of everybody. So now we have the largest real estate owner in the United States is President of the United States. Yeah? He owns Trump Towers. He owns land everywhere. He owns Mar-a-Lago. He is it. Yeah? He is our landlord, the Lord of the land. Yeah, and all of his friends are the Lord of the land. Yeah, and he works everything to the highest lack of benefit to humanity. Yeah, in order to take the money from everybody, to steal from the land, and do wasteful things on top of it that are much more bad karma. Yeah, like casinos and Trump Tower, and all these different things. Trump Tower what is that? $1 million a room? Yeah. His process of being in New York and having those particular locations is because there's value in it. Every apartment goes up. Money comes in. Yeah. His father was the same. He's the same. It's a family-operated lunar quality of the worst possible kind. Yeah. Okay. I'm back. All right. So I'm not sure where it cut off at, so I'll just continue. The main thing is that we're in a very bad karma reality, and that we're led by people who have and do really bad karma. And the biggest, worst karma is ownership of land and its value. And the delusion of the dream that's put into America especially. This isn't something you find in other worlds, when there's not really a capitalistic situation. People normally are working with landowners, yeah? So they rent their land or they do things. And as people who are in America, we have a belief, an illusionary belief, that we are buying in to this real estate process of owning land and making our living from it. We're going to retire on this. We're going to retire on this house that we're buying, and it's going to sell for so much more, and we're going to make so much money off of it. And all of that kind of process keeps making us think that we're going to go up the ladder. We're going to get a better house, and that's going to include our job's going to stay with us. And all the income that we're working with is going to remain the same. It keeps us in a deluded state, thinking that all of this capitalistic reality that we are now being made manifest by our own actions, yeah, is going to save us in the end. We're going to have this great house. We're going to have a nice family. It's going to take care of us. We have no idea where the end of this is going to rise. In most cases, if you watch it, from 1980 to now, there's been several processes where houses have been liquidated and people have been kicked out of houses by the millions. Yeah, 1980 it happened. Again, in 2000 to 2010 it happened. Yeah, so all of these processes are based on the reality that real estate is not the illusion that they put it out to be. Buying real estate, it does work that way in some cases, but if it goes down, then you're lost. If it goes up, then you're taking advantage of it being down. Where in reality, housing is never, ever, ownership of any house of any kind is never, ever to be thought of as a thing that you make money with. Yeah, it has to be thought of as something that's absolutely necessary, like food. Yeah, you can't do the same with food. Yeah, you can't do the same with your health. Yeah, you lose your health, you lose your actions, your ability, all your mind, everything that comes with it. Yeah, so these are necessary things: your health, food, and a place to live, a place to sleep, a place to eat that food, a place to maintain your health. Yeah, so a house is the most important thing on earth, and it has nothing to do with making money. That house is not to be kept and hoping that it goes up in value like a gold coin. Yeah? Like monetary bullshit. You shouldn't even go there. Yeah? That's why I'm asking people to consider deeply. Yeah? Step away, from the lifestyle that you have. Yeah? and enter into the smallest lifestyle that you can possibly contain yourself in. Yeah? Not a tiny apartment in San Francisco, because San Francisco sucks. Yeah? It'll kill you. Yeah? All the demons that are there are going to rip you apart, and all of your hope and dreams in every way is going to be lost in Satan's realm. That's the Church of Satan. Don't go there. Don't even go there to visit. Yeah? Don't go to visit. Don't tell your relatives to leave the land. You know, that whole place should be completely cleared. Yeah? Everybody should leave it. LA, same thing. Yeah? New York, same thing. All major cities are there to rip you off. Think of it, living in New York, a little tiny cubicle, a itty bitty cubicle. Yeah? $5,000 for 1,000 square feet. Yeah, who can afford that? Nobody. Yeah? So there's the slums, and there's all these high-rise old buildings that no one ever uses anymore, and then there's homelessness. Yeah? And people, we are in more homelessness, and we are in more dire need for more homes at a better price, than any other time before. Yeah? And we can't keep doing this. We can't keep living in the city for some stupid reason, a song or a relative or some reason that you have in your head that you need to live in a city. Yeah? You need to do your best to get yourself a tiny house or some kind of structure that you can move out. Find a place. They're out there. Cabins are out there. Places are out there. Get yourself settled in and learn a skill. Develop that skill and make yourself available online. And you will be down to $1,000 a month with your little electric car, your solar panels on your house, and your garden fulfilling your needs of 80% of your food. And your land isn't costing you hardly anything. You probably bought it for $2,000. Yeah? And you buy a tiny house and have it built on it for $30,000. And you're living till the end of your days in the forest, in a place with other people who are going to show up who want the same community life. Yeah? And truly, this is an individual, independent reality that we have to move to, not this delusionary dream. Yeah? Because you got to look into the dream and see what it really is. Yeah? You got to look at it, because a lot of times people are led into it, and they're so caught up in it because they're in their physical and emotional bodies. And your physical and emotional body is prime for recruitment. Yeah? There are people a little smarter than you, and every single one of those people say their IQ is much higher than yours. They all say that, whether it be Trump or anybody else. It's a big thing for them. Oh, our IQs are like, woo, way up here. And we all graduated, or we all got all these degrees and all this kind of stuff, And yet all you people who are renting our houses or buying our houses or getting our deals and doing that, you're on a much lower level, on every level, a much lower level. Yeah. And you're just being taken advantage of. Yeah. So who's taking advantage of you? Well, I would say it's most likely Mr. Trump. Yeah? So let's take a look at this one.
The unrelenting rise in the cases of the coronavirus.
That's coronavirus. That's toys. That's a word. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, let me point one other thing out. The process of owning homes and the process of renting homes, a great deal of it is built on the reality that there is no dream. That if you're black or you're Asian or you're a different color than white, and your mom and dad can't speak clear and they couldn't pay to get you to college, and then you come out, because you could be white, but you can be from Alabama, and you don't go to college, and you don't get to these situations. So they looking for that too. A little off on your language, a little off on, oh, where are you from? I'm from Alabama. Well, I don't know. We don't really need anybody right now. They're really looking for the cream of the crop. I can talk, I can walk, I've gone all through all the things, you know, and I've got a check and I got a credit cards and my credit score is really high. All these things, yeah. You know, so in most cases, it doesn't matter what your credit score is. It doesn't matter whether or not you've got the money, yeah. If your race isn't right and your location of who you come from isn't right, you're not going to get the building. You're not going to get the apartment. You're not going to get the house. So there's a lot of people who did that. And people wonder, you know, whether or not Trump is a racist, you know. And he's a real estate agent. So there's a real easy way to find out if he's a racist. You know, you just go back in history and see how he dealt with how many people rented his apartments and houses. How many were black? How many? Was it 100,000 people you rented over a 20-year period? And of 100,000 people, were there 20,000? No. Was there 10,000? No. Wow. Was there 50,000? No. Was there 20? No. Was there 1? No. Not one person, black, was rented to him. His father, and all the years that he held his position as a real estate agent. And it continues with his son. Yeah. And this is a man who worked for him. I'm going to show you this. This guy here worked for him.
He says it was basically his job to do the discriminating. He says he was instructed directly to slow walk or outright reject potential tenants if they were black, because they were black. But listen to this. Listen to what he told NBC News when he was asked exactly how that instruction came to him and who was in the room while it happened.
Just take me back into that room. So you were sitting in the room, and who was there? Describe the scene to me.
A black lady completed an application for an apartment in the building, a one-bedroom apartment, as I recall. And it was a very professionally writ application. It was checked and verified. There were no liens, no judgments against her. And she was calling me on a daily basis wanting to know the status of her application. And one day, Mr. Trump and his son Donald came into the office, and I asked this Fred Trump what I should do with this application because she's calling me constantly. And his response to me was, you know, I don't rent to the N-word. Put the application in a desk and forget about it.
Okay, so all of you out there, you know, I believe there's little ignorance in you. Yeah, that many of us who is in our 60s and 70s lived throughout America and know all this stuff to be true. We know that most of the rioting and anger is because there's no housing for black people, no housing for race, yeah, and mistreatment beyond belief. We got people who are Mexicans who come to America and they facilitate these rich people. They do their houses, they do their cleaning, all the middle class takes advantage of them, and all their income goes untaxed, yeah? And those middle class people just think this is just so cool. I've got a nanny, I've got a house cleaner, I've got all these things for such a cheap rate. I've got a gardener, I've got all these things for such a cheap rate. And then the farmers, and these are industrial farmers, yeah? They have all these Mexicans, millions of Mexicans. And where do they live? I don't know if you know anything about, you know, what was his name? Not Geraldo Rivera, but Mexican guy who, what was his name? Yeah. Anyway, we had a big thing with wine, and Mexican people back in the 60s when I was involved in all this. We had a guy that was part of that Mexican organization, and he was doing his best to create unions so that we could do something about the improper pay to all these migrant workers, and I was a migrant worker of all things. I actually worked as a migrant worker. I worked in the fields with migrants. I did all that, because I'm also a Blackfoot Indian, where we don't go to high school, we don't go to college, we don't do all these things. It's not what really we're supported to do. So I was the first person to graduate high school in my family. So my options was, farm work, farm labor. That was it. And maybe something else after that. So I know what these people go through. I know what it's like to be paid, $1 a row, when you're hoeing a row, and it's acres long. And you got to go all the way down that row and you get paid $1. And you turn around and you do the rest of the other row and you get paid another $1. And when you're done at the end of the day, it's back-breaking work because you're hoeing, and you don't get a whole hoe. They give you a hoe that's only this long. Isn't that weird? The stick has been shortened, so they're cheaper, I guess. And now you're down like this, hoeing rather than with a hoe like that. I brought my own hoe, but my poor friends didn't have a hoe like that, so I took my hoe back home, and I wouldn't go out there with that hoe. But that's just how it is. $1 a row. We normally walked away with an average of $7 a day. $7 a day. $12 max if we got there really early and we were a management kind of thing, where you actually set up things, you made sure everything was quality control. You're in a higher order. You get paid another $1 or something. Really, my father was even there, working with me. So we were farm labor workers. My father was always thought to be Mexican because he's American Indian, and he can't tell anybody he's American Indian. Because at that time they throw you back in where we come from. So I worked with this guy, and in our process, we helped to bring about major changes. And most people who are 60 or 70 years old remember this. And remember that we went through a lot to get the rights for these people to be here, to actually be here. It's not like we made them citizens, because we took advantage of them, and we knowingly took advantage of them. But we were going to take advantage of them and not really pay them or give them any housing. Or they had to live in their truck, or they had to live in a tent. They didn't have housing. There needed to be adequate housing. If you're going to hire a farm labor group, you should have houses and have them live in those houses and them clean and everything, which is what we fought for. So those kind of things were developed. We actually developed that throughout for all Mexicans. But we couldn't get it to where we can give them legal rights or anything like that, because this is America and they're not wanting to be Americans. They just wanted to get a job. And many of them would walk right across the border and live in Tijuana, even though their jobs were here because their family was there. Or they drive their trucks, and all their family and all their crew would come from Mexico to do all this gardening and everything. So we have a lot of that going on, and we don't have, that's bad karma. We don't have a good relationship to this. And then all of a sudden, we get a guy named Trump who all he wants to do is build walls, but he doesn't want to look at what has been done. Why are these people here? Are they here to benefit us? Does this actually give to our social system? Does this allow us to do the work we're meant to do? Should we maybe be thinking that we should maybe pay these people more correctly rather than build a wall? Should we maybe consider these people as becoming citizens? Because they're here and they're serving, but they have to drive right back across the border because we make it very hard for them to make a change, live here and stay here. So we have a guy in office who's 100% against that of any kind, whether you're be Muslim or Mexican or Chinese, the way he says it. Holy shit, he's cut down every border entrance from China. He hates Chinese. What? Come on, you can't hate Chinese. You can't hate Mexicans. You can't hate Muslims. You can't hate Indians. You can't, come on, but he does. He does. he hates people. If they don't like him, he hates them. Yeah? Yeah? So he just says, why don't you just go out there and beat the shit out of him? He says that on TV. He's not even bright enough to get off stage and then go talk to the police and then tell them to go do something corrupt. He's so far on the left-hand side of anger and hate and no controls whatsoever. He's just foaming at the mouth with hate. Yeah? So now that we have a guy like that in the office, what does he do with his time? Here we are. We need a president. We have coronavirus. We have violence everywhere. We need a president, who's committed. Yeah? Like Obama was fairly committed. Yeah? The guy before that was really downright committed. Yeah? And almost every president that we know of actually went to the office and worked. Yeah? But, you'd have to jump to conclusions thinking, well, he probably doesn't work. That's, that would be a very negative assumption. Yeah? But what if this guy, he doesn't work? Let's see. Yeah, check this out.
Much traditional work. 3 months of Trump's schedules now splashed across the news site Axios, which reports over 60% of Trump's day in these schedules consists of what's not generally considered work in the federal government. Open time, where Trump watches TV or lounges around. The White House has famously dubbed this executive time. Other insiders have leaked about how E-time is mostly Trump, quote, watching TV, reading the papers, and responding to things on Twitter. Now, in previous special reports on The Beat, we documented how Trump works less than other presidents, golfs more, and let years pass without even filling federal vacancies that only a president can appoint. What's new tonight, beyond those reports, is the sheer detail of these internal calendars. The Trump administration never wanted the public to see them, and this may be why. The private schedule reveals that on days when he's not traveling, Trump kicks off his day with 3 hours of executive time. The first actual meeting with another person will come in the 11 a.m. hour, typically followed by executive time, followed by lunch, and then more executive time. Now, you might be thinking, all this unstructured alone time must be exhausting. How long can you keep it up? The answer is not long, because most of the time, 67%, Trump calls it quits before or by 5 p.m. The shorter hours, a contrast to past presidents. Bush was in the office by 7 a.m. Obama came in around 9, compared to Trump's leisurely 11 a.m. And it's not about whether you're an early riser or a night owl, because bottom line, Bush's schedule showed a 10-hour-plus day in the Oval Office. Obama's showed 9 official hours, plus a habit for late-night memos in the residence. Trump clocking in at a cool 6 hours a day in the Oval. Now, critics say if you were to discount even part of the executive time, that would leave Trump literally treating the presidency as a part-time, 20-hour-a-week job. Now, Trump aides push back on all this. They insist he does a range of meetings, events, and calls, that E-time is part of the more creative environment he needs to flourish, and that as an unstructured leader, he is also, quote, the most productive president in modern history. Now, while reporting out this story, we did call some former co-workers of Trump, and they actually say he used to be known for working longer hours, so it does look like something has changed. Maybe he's less interested in this particular job, or maybe he's slowed down in general. But what are the consequences for the rest of us when the president is effectively part-time?
Yep. Yeah, that's our president. Yeah. So there's a lot of karma in this. Yeah. If we elect a president like this, then humanity has got the karma, ongoing karma, that keeps us in a position to where someone like this will get into office for 4 years. And there's, as you can see, there's not much we can do about it, and it might be pretty hard to get him out of office after he's been elected out of office. It could be a real chaotic war. Yeah, hopefully not, hopefully, but you never know. Yeah, so the process of this guy spending executive time, working part-time, and then also doing all the things he's doing in that time. So he's not really helping us with the coronavirus. From the very beginning, all the way to now. And up to now, he's never mentioned one word for a month. Not how many deaths, not how many people, not the rise or fall of any state. He only complains that they're not opening up fast enough. Any state that's slow, it's not opening fast enough. Yeah? So he's not on the side of us, not in any way, shape, or form. Yeah? He's there to harm people. And we're going to witness this. We're going to see this over a 2-year period. We're going to see 2.5 million people will die because of Trump. 2.5 million people. I don't know if it's you. I don't know if it's me. Yeah, but I know 2.5 million people will die just of this virus alone in a 2.5-year period. Yeah, right now we're going into 130,000 people by July. 130,000, and we get an average of 15 to 20,000 people a month. Yeah, and that will continue growing. It's never going to slow down until we get a percentage of the people in our country. Yeah, it's just automatic, just the way it works. But you can lower the death cycle of it, yeah, dramatically. You can lower it down to 5% of what it's going to be. You can lower it down to that if everybody wore a mask and everybody cleaned their hands and everybody made a choice that they never went into an area where there were other people congregating and hanging out, restaurants or anything. Yeah, you don't need your haircut right now. Yeah, you don't need this and that right now. Go to the store, get what you need. Make a connection with someone who's good at getting a haircut and knows there's nobody else going to be in that room but you and that person. And that's happening a lot. People have to adjust to this situation. And there are things we need, stores, all kinds of things that need to continue flowing, and they can without increasing the virus. We could do that. But we can't go to an inaugural election festival and breathe and laugh and scream on each other. There will be over 50 people who will die from that in the first month. And out of that, it'll linger on to a whole bunch of other people. We will have at least 1,000 deaths by him having people join him in trying to make him president in a party. In a party. That's all he wants, is a party, an early party, as though he's going to win. Yeah? But he's going to kill people, and it shouldn't happen. It should only be done on live TV. Yeah? Those people should stay at home. He should do it on live TV. People can get on their cell phone and text their vote, text their relationship to what's going on, and be there as though they're there. Everything can be done totally virtually, 100%. And not one person will get that. Yeah, but there's going to be over 50 people right away who's going to die. Let alone over 1,500 people who are going to get the virus. They're going to walk out of that building filled with the virus. By the time they come out, they'll go from 1,500 people to 4,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 people, all with the virus. And 50 of those people will be going to the hospital and dying within 2 weeks of that time. Yeah? And that's a fact. We're just going to watch it. There's nothing we're going to do about it. Nothing. Because it's karma, people. It's karma. And karma happens. And a lot of times we don't believe karma exists. Yeah? We just think, I'm my good fortune. I'm a lucky guy today. Oh, I'm so unlucky now. Oh, why is this happening to me? Yeah? It's karma. It's all karma. Yeah? Everybody has the right to clear their karma. Yeah? You got a right. Yeah? But if you're seduced, and all that's going on, when there's chaos and all this kind of stuff that goes on, it leads you to do more bad karma. Yeah? You can go out there without a mask. You can go out there without all these things. You can make decisions to try and push a theater to open, or all these different things, try and push restaurants to open so you can all gather together. That happened, and people got very sick from it. Yeah? So let me show you.
The unrelenting rise in the cases of the coronavirus as America reopens. Tonight, there are more than 2 million confirmed cases and more than 115,000 lives lost. Miami beaches reopened this weekend, even as Florida reported a record number of new cases 3 days in a row. Meanwhile, New Orleans bars are reopening for the first time. And here in New York City, crowds are in the streets of the East Village on the first weekend that restrictions were eased, not everyone wearing masks. Health officials fear that could lead to a surge in new cases in 2 weeks' time. Here's ABC's Kaylee Harto.
Tonight, 3 of the most populous states in the country hitting record highs for new coronavirus cases. Fears now mounting that some reopened too early. The Houston area, particularly hard hit.
The reopening was happening faster than what we locally would have liked.
Texas began easing restrictions more than a month ago. And since Memorial Day, hospitalizations are up 42%. Florida reporting a record jump in new cases for the 3rd straight day. The governor blaming it on a farm workers outbreak.
These are workers that are working close together. Once one gets it, it tends to spread very rapidly.
Miami Beach is open for the first weekend since the pandemic hit. Groups are limited to 10 people and masks are required. Tonight in Arizona, a record number of people on ventilators and hospitalizations are on the rise. This father in Phoenix losing 5 family members to the virus.
By the grace of God, people have shown us a lot of support. People have been calling, asking what you need.
The CDC saying strict lockdowns may be needed if cases rise dramatically.
5 people
the
lost
uptick
in their
certain
family.
states, Dr. Anthony Fauci says a second wave of the virus can be prevented.
We don't necessarily have to have a second wave as long as we have the capability when those inevitable infections come up to be able to handle them in an effective way.
So far, Oregon and Utah, the only states to delay the next stage of reopenings. But cities like Nashville and Tucson now hitting the pause button too. In New York, today was the lowest number of deaths since the start of the pandemic, 32. New video showing large groups of people turning streets into Manhattan's version of Bourbon Street. Bands playing, customers gathering around, many without masks.
Yep. And we've never seen the president wear a mask. He absolutely won't wear it. And if he sees somebody wearing a mask, oh, you're just being politically correct. You're just such a stupid person. That's what he says. You're being politically... He says, take your mask off if you're going to talk to me. Yeah? And the reporter says, no, sir, I won't. He says, oh, yeah, right, you're being politically correct. Not like the man has a soul. Not like he has a soul. This is the point. You either have a soul or you don't have a soul. And to have a soul is good karma. You have to practice good karma. You have to choose what is good karma. Yeah, it's not hard. It's really not hard. Everything that's going on in the world could be adjusted directly, immediately, just by beginning to practice good karma. And if you listen to the things I'm saying, get a smaller house, close down your bills, get rid of your credit cards, throw everything out, go to an adjuster, have them adjust your bank balance, have them adjust your loan with your college, all the things that are killing you, forcing you to think you have to live this life and think you have to have that job or think you have to live in this location. Get freaking therapy. Yeah? On a personal level. Don't go to a therapist because they'll tell you you're better off in New York. Yeah? Maybe you should be gay. That's your problem. Yeah? Don't go to a therapist. Yeah? Yeah? But look within and realize and listen to me. When I say these things, it's really important that you have to adjust everything that you got going on. You have to adjust it toward good karma. Yeah? And it's not good karma having a car that's fossil fuel. If you just see how much you're working for to maintain that car, you might as well be a slave. Because you're a slave to the house, you're a slave to the car, you're still owned by slavery. Yeah. And it gets worse because your slave owner starts calling you on the phone saying, you're not paying your bill. I'm going to kick you out of your house. Yeah. And they're all slave owners. They're all treating you as though they're slave owners, as though you're the lowest piece of crap on earth. And we all get that. When you go down this road, and when you hit this level, we all get treated the same. Yeah? And we shouldn't. Yeah? And it's all this mental attitude as though we're supposed to have fulfilled the dream, and the people who are not fulfilling it are losers. Like our president says, you're a loser. You're just a loser. You're not rich like me. You're a loser. You're fired. You're a general. You're fired. Oh, 12 generals don't like me? That's okay. I don't like generals. I would have been the best general in the whole world if I was a general. That's what he said. Can you imagine that? All these generals go on TV and say, whoa, we're really sorry we followed his direction. It goes against everything that we've been trained to do, whether it be under constitutional rule or under moral attitude. These are things we will never do again. And it's one general after another general after another general after another. There isn't a general that'll walk in the room to take a relationship and imagine who the president is. He's the head of that office of military. He can't tell them what to do and everything, but he literally is. When I was in the Navy, he was commander-in-chief. Commander-in-chief. It wasn't president of the United States. It was commander-in-chief. He was the senior officer in command. Yeah? And then below that, being in the Navy, we had admirals. Yeah? And then we had other people that we went through our belief systems with, you know, because there's sergeants and everything, you know. But when it comes down to the president, there was an immense sense of respect, you know, as to this being the commander-in-chief. And he's not like wearing a uniform, but he's in the office. And he supposedly supports us to be in the military, yeah, and to give right, you know, like, I honor you as a general. I honor you as an admiral. That's who the president is, the person who has the greatest respect for the Constitution and the greatest respect for military, and not as a military force, but as an individual, as people, yeah, as hardworking people, far more credible than he is in every way. None of them have part-time jobs. None of them, yeah, you know. So this whole process is built on karma, yeah? And we have this now where we have a lot of rise going on in the lack of ability for us to adjust to how to deal with this correctly. And people are dying. And in karma, the worst form of karma is harm, yeah? And what level of harm, you know? Well, they always say ignorance is 9/10 of the law. Yeah, that's because it's in this bullshit world, yeah? And it's just ridiculous, yeah? And there's no such thing, yeah? You better figure it out or you're going to learn the hard way, yeah? And you're no longer ignorant, yeah? But you learn the hard way. And that's why they say ignorance is 9/10 of the law, but you're still going to jail. You may not remember, you may not know, you may not have the evidence and all that, but you're still going to go to jail because ignorance doesn't do it. Yeah? And in every relationship that we're doing, that trying to do the right thing, trying to deal with economy, try to deal with a president, try to deal with, you know, this virus, you know, all of it is based on whether or not we're giving information that keeps us ignorant. Yeah? And and all of this virus thing has been completely shunned to any kind of, because everybody's falling in line with those people with the rifles that carry those flags. Everybody's like believing that hostile force is going to get to them if they don't fall in line. Because that's just like your bill collector saying, get back out there and get to work, you know? Whether they're with a gun or a flag or anything, you know, you're in that group of society that they're talking about. Your safety and your human rights toward being safe is completely jeopardized. Yeah? And that's what the American dream is supposed to be. The real American dream is supposed to be that we're in a country of the people, by the people, in a declaration, yeah, that allows us to trust in all of us, yeah, to bring constant peace, yeah, tranquility, peace, tranquility, yeah. We haven't reached that, have we? Yeah, not quite, but it is. It's in the preamble. It's in the Constitution, yeah, yeah. So all of our truth, what we're working through, is what's in that Constitution. It's based on the Bill of Rights. It's based on human rights. Yeah, it has in there, many of those things are to wipe away all the prejudice, wipe away the illegal application of buying land and selling it the way we do. Yeah, originally that's not the way it's set up. Yeah, we really are limited in relationship to our land. We're very limited. We should be, on a monetary level, land should be as it is always. If we paid $100 for it, 500 years from today, it's worth $100. If we build a $900 house on that, it's worth $900 because that's what I built it for. And the land is $100. It's $1,000 if you want to buy it. That's truth, and that's karma. Yeah? And we all are in the dream. We're all in the dream. If that one thing changes, one thing, just one thing, land, no matter where it's at, doesn't cost more than $100. Yeah. And everybody gets an acre, at least an acre. Yeah. And where I come from, land doesn't cost anything, it's free. And the house that you're going to build on it is also free until your house is built. And now you must maintain it. And that's the only thing you got to do. You got to maintain your land. You got to maintain the trees. You got to not create pollution, not create harm to the land or to the environment. Yeah, yeah. And that's the law. That's really where we're going to go. Whether we're here now, which we're not going in that way, but that is where we're going to go because that's what the soul does. Yeah. So all of us in our soul are being moved by our Constitution to attain the dream. Yeah, to attain the dream. Yeah. And in it, we honestly believe in the coming of the Christ as a relationship to our Constitution. So our Constitution is written by God. Under God. This Constitution is written by God. Yeah. Think about that. Yeah. It's not written by man. Yeah. It's signed and declared by man, but it's under God that it is written. Every word, everything, all those words and everything were the highest of the highs and the holiest of the holies in the minds of those men who were chosen at that time to stand there and take these declarations and these constitutional matters and put them on paper and write it and sign their names on it. That was a holy event. Yeah, it was a holy event. Yeah. So we're trying to live out that holy event. It's an invocation-evocation. We severed our relationship with the evilest country in existence, where they went around trying to own land everywhere. Now that was in us, owning land and living like Europeans. Yeah? Charging tax just like they taxed us. Yeah? Living under the same delusion. We even wanted to make our first president a king. Because a bunch of Europeans, what are you going to think? How else are we supposed to think? Yeah? But we were written in the Constitution to think differently. Yeah? Completely think differently. And that Constitution led us directly into the Civil War. Because we were in the middle of slavery. We were in the middle of all the wrong things that this Constitution does not stand for. Yeah? Yeah, so that's where we're going. Trust me. I overshadowed that writing. I wrote that Constitution. I made that declaration. I made President Washington. I made Jefferson. I made Adams. Every single one of them were overshadowed to take the position that they were in. All were best of friends. Yeah? And it was like a time you can't imagine. But these times keep coming back and reincarnating. So we have a time now to where we have electric cars and all these fancy things going on that are like, where do these people come from? How do they just show up out of nowhere and all of a sudden we have these new fancy ideas and fancy things? Well, they're the same people that were Edison and Tesla. And they did a world of electricity and gave people telephones and all these things and electric cars and automobiles. Yeah? And then they die. And then they come back. And they get to be 30 or 40 years old. And we got it again. Yeah? Think about it. Think about that. Because when did Tesla die? Yeah? In the 40s. When did Edison die? Yeah? When did Ford die? All these people that were moving all the things that they were doing. They died, they came back, and they're busy again. And they do pretty similar things. Yeah? Because they're fast at being able to put together what it is that needs to be done. They have a mindset and a part of a new group of world servers that moves this thing, but every single one of them screw up. Every single one of them get caught on the left-hand path. Ford did, Edison did, Tesla did. They all do. And even the ones today are caught on the left-hand path, even though I'm overshadowing them and I'm changing the world and giving all these wonderful new things into the world as a blessing. And these people get credit for it, as though Edison invented the TV. Yeah? And he didn't invent it. I invented the TV, you know. I invented it in India back in the early 1800s. When I was a little kid, I walked around and I told my mom, do you know what a cell phone is? I asked that. Do you know what a cell phone is? Where can I get a cell phone? She says, I don't know what you're talking about. Phones are these things that you pick up or on the wall. Yeah. I said, no, there are cell phones and you just talk in them. Yeah. And it's everything. It's got all your information. It's got things that you need to know. You can communicate with people, not just by talking, but by writing. Yeah. And she goes, no, we don't have anything like that. You know, nothing. Yeah. So I went to Tandy. I went to Radio Shack. I asked them, who's got the cell phones? Yeah. And they were like, what are you talking about? You know, never heard of such a thing. Yeah. And then comes, you know, Star Trek, and they pull out this thing. I said, that's it. That's pretty much it, you know. And I'm just going, whoa, you know, how are we going to get the... But it was a communication device, and it wasn't at all the cell phone I was thinking about, because my cell phone was a handheld computer, and no one knew what a computer was. Yeah, mine was a handheld computer. It did all these things. It communicated, and it did what I thought to be writing, which is called texting. Yeah, but to me, it was writing to someone. Yeah, and they immediately get the letter, you know. And I'm thinking, this is just normal. Where can I buy this, you know? And there was nothing. Yeah. So for years, you know, I even worked with Motorola to develop the first cell phone. Yeah, I did that. I installed them in cars because they weren't portable. And I didn't sell them, but I built them, I replaced them, I repaired them, I installed them. Yeah, that was my job because I need to make sure this, as soon as it happened, I quit whatever I was doing. And I called up Gifford Engineering. And I said, do you have a job opening for your, your Motorola telephone service? He goes, yeah, how do you know we even had it? Because it was only being operated by these really rich people, you know, that were going to get it from Motorola. Yeah, and they were starting to use it in the police. Yeah. And then, you know, I go there and I get this job and kind of find out I'm getting the job of the first cell phones. I was so excited. Yeah. So, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. But in the process of getting this world to where it needs to go, it requires this telepathy. Yeah, and telepathy comes from, that's why they call me a prophet, or the group that I'm supposedly with, who are masters and everything. They're all recognized and thought to be prophets. And the reason why we're thought to be prophets is because we don't just see into the future. We see the future. Yeah, we see it as though it's existing right here and now. Right here and now. Yeah. So there isn't a thing you look at that doesn't have, It's just missing. The cell phone's just missing. But every operating aspect of it is part of the way you're thinking. That's the way it was with me. So until that came up, I was ready and willing to get on the computer, get on all these things and operate these things as though I've been in them all my life. And that's what furthered them forward. So it takes a prophet to really move all of this in an integrated way, where I'm not just going computers or this and that. I'm into space, I'm into technology, I'm into electric cars, I'm into robotics, I'm into autonomic systems, I'm into holistic medicine and energetic, all these different things that usually one person would take one industry and focus on that. But as a prophet, it's very synergistic. Yeah. So everything comes pouring in. Yeah. And so if you can imagine all of this, Trump and all the things that we're dealing with are all going to go by the wayside by the year 2030, because Trump will be in prison. Yeah. And a lot of people who really believed in Trump and, people who played that game, are also either going to be in prison or in a state of redemption by repenting. Yeah. And changing their ways dramatically. Yeah. And that's going to open the minds for a lot of people, but there's going to be an enormous hardship of dying and loss of homes and businesses and everything throughout the United States. It'll be the worst thing that will happen to the United States since the recession, even before the recession. You can put the recession, you can put the Dust Bowl and all of that all in one package, call it Trump. Yeah. If you go back at that time, you'd see that there were people in office who was the reincarnation of Trump at the time. And that energy of influence in the world wasn't in the United States. He was outside the United States, because Trump is not an American. Yeah? Even though he says, no. He says, my father was born, in Germany. Yeah? He says, my father. The truth is his father was born in New York. Yeah? But in truth, he wants to hold on to the thought that he's not really American, he's German. And he holds this strong belief systems, the same belief systems that Nazis hold. Yeah? And just like coming from Europe and stuff, you come over here and you have a hard time letting go of the way of buying land and treating people and all of that. Well, that's in him too. Yeah? And that was in his father, when his father says, we do not rent to N-word. Yeah? And, come on. People, this is really not hard to figure out. Yeah? So we don't just have a racist situation. We have reincarnation taking place. Yeah? And this guy is from Italy. Yeah? His previous life, he's from Italy. Yeah? And he was a dictator who very much wanted to rule the earth. Yeah? Along with 5 other dictators at the same time. And he was kind of close to Hitler. The two of them were planning together. Yeah? Yeah, can you imagine that? Yeah? And this guy dies a horrible death and reincarnates a year and a half later as Trump. So he hasn't finished his business. If you can imagine, you're a dictator and you're wallowing in your pride. And you're so arrogant beyond belief up to the moment they beat you to death in the street. Arrogant beyond belief, up to the moment they beat you to death in the street, which is what happened to him. And then he was hung upside down. And everybody beat on him then too. There was no way of recognizing him. Yeah? That was Trump's last life. Yeah? And it's going to go down like that again. You have no idea what's going to happen to him in prison. Yeah? There's a lot of weird guys in prison. A lot of weird guys, a lot of weird guys. Yeah. And the influence of karma is a process that is coming together. Karma is my job. Karma is the job of Christ. Karma is light, and it's the amount of light that I can keep putting on this planet and things that I can keep putting into the planet so that everybody can benefit. I put Disneyland on the planet, was there really a reason for that? Yeah, there was, because I had to do all the things in order to give you your past, your present, and your future in one place. tomorrow world, frontier world, and today's world. Yeah? I did that. Yeah? And built it 20 miles from where I lived, and I was there on the day that it opened. Yeah? You know, so all of those things and all the fantastic things in 1919 when we did this enormous fair for technology and advancements. And we gathered together Tesla, and we gathered together Edison, and we chose Edison or Tesla in order to run the electric system. So we had light all throughout. Nobody ever seen such a thing. Yeah? It was amazing. And we did it again in late 20s, and again in the 30s, and again in the 60s, and again in the 70s. Yeah? And every time it's done, it advances us into an understanding of where we could be. Yeah? Keeping us from this place of, oh, I can't, I can't change. You know, when you've got a world that's showing you rocket ships and showing you going to the Mars and showing you that, you know, these cars are really cool, you don't just think you want to buy one, you think you want to build one. Yeah? You think maybe you could be a designer and an engineer one day. That's what that's for. To open your mind up, coming out of a place where you've never been educated in your entire life. All your lives, you've never been educated. Never had an opportunity. Yeah? Not until this life, this cycle of time, is the first time the world gets educated. Yeah? So this is what comes out, is ways in which to show the past, present, and future to people and move them as fast as we possibly can. That's what I did in America. Yeah? So that facilitated a lot, but it didn't change the things in people when it came down to consumerism. Yeah, and buying houses and thinking that they're going to make a lot of money on that. Yeah, so that's still part of the process of the healing of the karma that comes from the past. It's still not gone yet. Yeah, so where the root sits is in the money, and that money is misuse of that money. Yeah, and you're just caught up, and it's all because the past lives have never been fulfilled. All the time you were starved, all the time you didn't have clothes, all the time you didn't have toys, all the time you didn't have friends, all the time you couldn't play, all the time, you know, that was your past lives. So that inner frustration is there when we enter this life. Yeah? So imagine, here we got this life, and we got going on what we got going on. We've got materialism beyond belief, and we've got the desire to purchase things, own things, you know, to hoarding, to the point of hoarding. You know, where people can't even get through their front door. You know, it's so packed up. Yeah, that all stems from the area in which we're moved to consumerism. Yeah, so there's a lot of different kinds of consumerism. Yeah, there's a process to where you think you're buying in order to buy groceries. You think you're buying in order to buy your best appliances. Yeah. But then there is the process in which you're buying because you're a consumer and you have compulsive disorders. And it runs in our social system, and it runs inside the family. Yeah. So in the family, people start buying things. Yeah. But they're living in a fantasy area as to what they should buy. Like all of a sudden you may love basketball, and then this guy who loves basketball shoes says, hey, these shoes are like the coolest shoes in the world. You know, you got to own these shoes because I'm like the best basketball player, and I have these shoes named after me. They're Jordans, man. You got to own these, sucker. They're like $400 a piece, and they're limited, you know. Everybody's got to own them. Yeah. That's consumerism. Yeah. And you can have a pair of shoes for $20 and be happy as a bell. But, you know, that doesn't serve your solar plex. Yeah? And your desire body, which comes from your lower mind, when you see something, they tempt you. And that temptation builds a program inside of some illusion or a delusion or some delusionary aspect that then manifests into our consumerism. So all of a sudden, we have dolls, yeah? Imagine we have all these dolls, and we don't just mean dolls, we mean dolls. You know, we have Barbie doll, yeah? And kids, when they got those Barbie dolls, they didn't get one Barbie doll. They got a lot of Barbie dolls. They didn't just get a lot of Barbie dolls, they got a lot of clothes with their dolls. And they got a house, and they got a car, and they got all these things. Then comes Ken, and, you know, you got to do Ken, and Ken's got to get his shit together and all that. And they're actually programming you. They're actually programming you, you know, that this is who you are, Barbie doll. And this is who you are, Ken. Yeah. And on every single magazine you look at, they look like Barbie doll. Yeah. They look like Ken. Every actor, everything you look at, consumerism-wise, yeah, it's all done so that you'll go out and buy Barbie dolls, yeah? And then after you're done buying Barbie dolls, these kids grow up, they need Barbie doll dancers, yeah? Yeah, like Swift, yeah? All these Barbie dolls, yeah? And whether they're black or brown or white, they're all toned down into a soft, mellow skin color, you know, so that no one's freaked out over anything. And everybody's just looking at the lady in the skimpy clothes doing as much skimpy stuff as you possibly can do on a stage and get away with it. Yeah. That's our Barbie doll come to life. That's our desire body manifested. And now we've got in the girls who were on Disney originally, you know. Now, because they're in the acting and in the field, people who make Barbie dolls go, hey, we need to do a TV show. Yeah, so that we have all kinds of people doing videos. Yeah, and then we can put people on a video and make it called MTV. Yeah, and from that, we can program millions of kids and adults to buy more materialism. So what's the biggest one in MTV that comes out? I'm a Material Girl by Madonna. Yeah? And she's not joking around. This is a demon of demons. This bitch is so demonic that she takes everything that you are, everything to Christ, everything to Madonna, everything to anything. She turns it absolutely the opposite direction and gets away with it. Yeah? She has sex in a church, in a black church with a Christ right in front of her, all done on video, and everybody just buys into it. Says, oh, this is just great. We love her. Yeah. And then we get Metallica, and we get everybody else comes in. Yeah. And it just becomes more and more and more. Now we're not looking at Barbie dolls anymore. We're looking at whatever they want to program us with. Because we've been prepared. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah, because we really don't know whether or not we want to be policemen or firemen. Yeah, we really don't know. But they're programming us to think we should do these things. And on top of it, they're programming us to think maybe we're another gender. Let's start working on that at a young age so we will not even consider our soul and what our job should be, what our career, a personal career. Who am I? And what is it I would like to do for the rest of my life? Yeah? I doubt if it's a lawyer. Yeah? I really doubt if it's a nurse. Yeah? Kind of doubt if it's a doctor. Yeah? Because reality hits after a while. You know? It's not the money. It's not the prestige. It doesn't really fit your soul. Yeah? And you can't just, you know, take all these cogs with names on them that are something that you can glorify and say that's your only opportunities in life. These are it. I can either join the military or I can become an electrician, you know, or I can do this or I can do that. Yeah. But they're cogs. None of them have a creative value to you looking at yourself and deciding, what is it should I do? Yeah. How should I maybe learn a skill? Yeah. And try doing something with that skill. Get creative. Maybe I'll come up with something. Yeah. And it's not about being an artist. It's about being creative. And allow yourself to express. And get yourself valued. Yourself valued. Rather than have to go into an employer who devalues you right away. I'll pay you $7 an hour. Really? Really? That's horrible. Okay. thanks. Yeah. And then it's disgusting. The whole thing, because you got to clock in, you got to be distrusted 24/7, you're always a liar, you're always a thief, you're always dishonest, that's the impression put upon you. All these cameras everywhere, making sure you don't steal, making sure that you're not doing something weird, which you could be, but, the least we could do is love each other, yeah, and have kindness and trust. And build those virtues in a person, build those morals in a person, rather than project those things. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all of that. It's all of that energy that is causing us to have bad karma. Yeah. It's all bad karma. Yeah. So now we got this little thing here, and I talked about materialism and how things really get bad, but this is pretty bad. Yeah. There are people who are losing their homes. People who they're using their credit cards to buy things. They don't have a job that pays for what they need to pay for, so their credit cards are paying for things, and then they have to try and pay off their credit card at 29%. So that's like 35 years down the road. And it never pays off your balance. It's only paying off the interest. So it's a horrible thing. Yeah, and as you're going along, buying clothes and paying for your groceries and, buying gas, and every time you go into the market, you got to buy something for your kid. Every time you got to buy a toy for the kid. You got to buy a doll. You got to go to the mall. You got to come back with 6 or 7 bags of shit, or somebody else comes back with stuff. Yeah. But let's just look at one member of the family, the children. What effect do they have on a family in consumerism? And how could that have a negative effect?
Lots of stuff. We have many mechanisms by which we accumulate possessions. Lots of stuff. We have many mechanisms by which we accumulate possessions in our home, but we have few rituals or mechanisms or processes for unloading these objects, for getting rid of them.
Things come in from all sides. They really do. They come in from gifts and birthday parties and holidays and from relatives and those kinds of things. And school and treasures, as I call them. I have always been a treasure hoarder.
So what happened here was that, and I've been many things, and one of the things I've been is an anthropologist. Yeah, I'm a darn good anthropologist. Yeah, so this guy who is running this program is an anthropologist, and he needed data, and that's what we do. We get data. So we think, okay, we're going to check 100 homes, in a given area, and we're going to ask these people to let us walk into their homes and inventory their house. And they don't really expect a whole inventory. They really don't expect that, yeah. But that's what happens. We have to go into every drawer and take everything out of the drawer, and we have to write down everything and take pictures. So I don't care what you had in that drawer. I don't care what you have on the shelf. I don't care what you have under the bed. I don't care what you have over here on all these shelves, which you don't pay much attention to, but when they're in there and they're checking it out, you become very aware of the fact that there's a whole lot here, and so they get this all together and they create this understanding. And one of the understandings is this part.
Lots of stuff. We have many mechanisms by which we accumulate possessions in our home, but we have few rituals or mechanisms or processes for unloading these objects, for getting rid of them.
Things come in from all sides. They really do. They come in from gifts and birthday parties and holidays and from relatives and those kinds of things. And school and treasures, as I call them. I have always been a treasure hoarder. So, a rock or a branch or something, and my kids then ended up that same way.
There are a lot of forces that encourage us to consume, and obviously this is the entire advertising industry, right? Millions of dollars invested to get us to purchase things.
This is one kid's room.
This book is really meant to get us to think about how we consume objects, to think about the number and types of toys we consume and give to our children.
The United States has 3.1% of the world's children, but consumes 40% of the world's toys.
Of course, children in all societies have something that is similar to toys, but the sheer quantity of toys is really astonishing from the cross-cultural point of view, and how the toys spill out everywhere in the house as well is also staggering.
We found in the study that children's toys and objects were in living rooms, they were in spare bedrooms, they were in their own rooms, of course, they were in kitchens, they were even sometimes in master bedrooms.
There's some blurriness to the idea of a toy, because the parents have a lot of sentimental involvement in these toys as parents. And one of the things we soon realized is that the toys themselves were toys for the parents as well as for the children. The house actually had a kind of child culture about it as a whole, or it became a child-centered house.
Some of it's nostalgia, right? I mean, Snoopy, he's a cultural icon. How many children actually, recognize Snoopy in the contemporary? I think Snoopy's almost an artifact of, of our childhood. I think the sheer density and availability and fairly inexpensive array of objects that are out there, this has significantly changed over the last 50 years. We found cheaper ways to produce more stuff, and because of that there is more available. The reality is that we're perhaps spending more on children's material culture, on toys, than ever before in the history of humanity.
I'll get to that one in a minute. So, consumerism, yeah? And a lot of times we don't really recognize, what we're consuming, what we're taking in. And everything is prasadam. In karma, good karma, everything is prasadam, yeah? So it's okay to eat meat, yeah? Because everything is prasadam, everything, yeah? It's just a matter of whether or not you are in good karma, yeah? So you want to make darn good decision that meat is grass-fed, humanely raised, and it's not going to do harm to you. It's not doing harm. Other than that, cow's going to die, but that's what it does. We all die, yeah? We all serve, and everything is food, yeah? So in this process, we take this and take every avenue moving toward harmlessness, every avenue, yeah? And that harmlessness gives us health, yeah? And it allows us to consume less, yeah? If we buy the very finest of the best of the grass-fed beef, and we choose, well, I'm not going to eat a 12-ounce thick steak. I'll eat half of that steak. And then 4 days later, I'll have the other half of that steak. Yeah? And now I've gone through 2 meals at the price of 1. Yeah? And that's really normal. Really normal. Yeah? It's the same thing of making yourself a nice breakfast and only eat half of it. And put the other half aside and have that for lunch. It's fantastic. Everybody loves breakfast, Yeah, so it works really well. Yeah, and that's very simple, very good karma, It keeps people from making more harm into other people because we're actually wasting things, yeah? So imagine there's this, that's bad karma, and this is good karma, and, harmlessness is good karma, yeah? Being able to discern, discriminate where harmlessness is in life. We are constantly in a hostile, dangerous circumstance. We could lose our home, we could get unhealthy or sick, we could get in a car accident, anything can happen. It's that kind of existence, yeah? So how we deal with everything is how wise we're going to be as we grow, so that we could deal with everything even better. Yeah, and we learn from our mistakes, and we don't really make them again because we become simpler. Yeah, we don't have to have a new car every year, which is a very common thing. A new car every year, can you imagine that? Yeah. but it's really common. All of the car dealers depend on people getting a new car every year or every other year. They depend on it. They wouldn't be putting out new cars every year if they didn't depend on that. Yeah? So the majority of number of cars that they're going to sell is going to be worth the number of cars that they're going to make, that they probably won't sell all of them. But they're going to make so many of them because they trust that people in America desire to buy a new car every year. That brand new Plymouth they came out looks so much better than that one last year. Yeah? Because we're in this emotional, physical world rather than higher mind. Yeah? If we go with good karma, we go with higher mind. So, now we can get a smaller house. We can have a garden. We can move from the city. And we could do these things. We can pull them off. It's cheaper in the country than it is in the city. So trust me, you could do these things. Yeah? You can get an electric car. They lease real cheap. And if you're living in a small house, now you can afford it. Yeah? So all these things can happen quickly to people, but they still want to have dogs and cats living in their house. That's one thing. If you have a dog or cat and it's living outside, enjoy. Yeah, enjoy. Yeah, life is good. Yeah, you got us, we got you. We're having a good friendship and everything is right. Yeah, they're living outside. That's where they belong. Yeah, animals do not belong inside the house. They exist in nature. Yeah, so to have them out there is good karma, and to give them a good area, a good place to be, and a friend is good karma. Yeah. So you don't want to have a single cat. Yeah. Because if you leave that house, what's it going to do to that cat? Now in your mind, you might go, it's just going to go lay around. It's just a cat. Cats don't do anything. They get into stuff, But it doesn't matter if I walk out the door. That doesn't affect the cat, I mean, how would I know? I'm not there, So in my mind, I'm making up all these positive things. Cat's good. Dog's good. Dog eats up the inside of your house for a reason. Dog's pissed off. You left the dog alone. Yeah? You don't do that. You don't do that. You give them a friend, another friend, and you let them be together. And you let them learn how to be together rather than to be dependent upon you. You're another friend, a connected friend. But they still got to have their friends. Yeah? So if you don't do that, and you got yourself a kitty, what happens to that kitty when you're not at home and you go out the door? What do you think? Well, let me show you. Because it's freaking devastating. Yeah? This is a little kitty. Now it starts talking. It's asking for help. And now it's getting scared. I don't want to be alone. Why'd you leave me? I love you. Don't leave me like this. Why'd you leave? You're not coming back. All I could do is look at that door. If you love cats, don't do this. Not about leaving them home. Don't take them home. It's only been 10 minutes. It's really freaking out. Yeah. So that's just a cat. Yeah. There's a lot of kids who are key children that they go to school and they make their own breakfast and they get to school and they get through their school and they have to walk home from school and they go into the house and no one's home. Mom's working, dad's working, and they got to fend for themselves. Yeah. And none of them want to do that. None of them want to go home and not have someone there. You know, I mean, it's devastating. And all of this is very, very, it's supposed to affect your heart. Now, this is what karma is about. When you do good karma, your heart becomes more sensitive and you gain a conscience, and your conscience becomes your will. You can't control your conscience, and you're driven by your conscience. Yeah. So with good conscience, which means good karma, yeah, you don't get the cat. Yeah. You've studied Buddhism, you know Buddha lets the bird out of the cage. So we don't get dogs or cats. Yeah. And that's if you're a Buddhist. And a lot of Buddhists have dogs and cats, so I don't really understand that. Yeah. But that is the case. And harmlessness is the most important thing. And I'm not going to go away. This teaching's been here since the beginning of time, and I could show you that you've been on this planet for over 500 million years as a civilization, building shit, doing stuff. You know, so you're not new. Yeah? You're just asleep. You're very, very asleep. And you're in a nightmare. Yeah? And this nightmare, you know, these demons are in charge of it. You know, your perspective, the view that you have, your reaction to it, and your lack of ability to sense it. You know, hardly anybody out there senses what would happen if they got a kitty. I do. I know exactly. You take the kitty and you put it in a house, and you walk out of that house, and you've caused enormous, irreparable damage to that cat. You do the same to a child. If you have a kid in the house and you leave that kid completely alone, you drive away. Yeah, a lot of people have done that, and they go to jail for it because it's irreparable damage to the child. Yeah. You know, yet that happens, and so does the animals. And we need to have rights. We need to, not our rights. We need to have rights. So we need to give rights to everything. Everything has a right. Yeah? The cat has a right to be a cat. Yeah? The dog has a right to be a dog. Not your dog. Not a dog that's trained and jumps through hoops and sits on command, and no dog out there does that sort of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's just, if you're very telepathic and intuitive, you make good relationships with animals spontaneously. Yeah. So you don't really need a pet. But if we have bad karma, we lose so much from not having even a human relationship love us. That we're so in pain and suffering, so much harm has gone on to humanity that we bleed that over into causing harm into the next kingdom down. Yeah. And then we did the same thing to the vegetable kingdom. And now everybody just eats bread. and sugar and cakes and candies. And that used to be the vegetable kingdom. Where's the vegetable kingdom and the cakes and the candy? And, it's not there. Yeah. And all the mineral kingdom, you make everything out of it. You got rings, you got gold. You have all these things just absorbing the mineral kingdom. Yeah. And then every single thing, every human being has spirit. So we either have good spirit or bad spirit. Yeah. If we own things, and we own things in not a good way, all those things get bad spirit. They all get bad spirit. And the house turns into a bad spirit. And the outcome of the house turns out to bad outcome. Yeah. And it all takes away from the Holy Spirit, which is what you're supposed to be putting into things, which tells you not to get that cat. Not to buy that 100th doll. Not to buy that 50th pair of shoe this month. Even though they were on sale. Yeah. Just all those things of good karma, every choice one makes every day and simplifies their life and just has a simple breakfast, exercises, takes care of all the duties and activities needed for the day, eats dinner, goes to bed, a regular life. Yeah. But if you add any of this other bad karma into it, then we don't have the spirit to come out of our body. And that's what heals us. That's what gives us peace, tranquility. Yeah. Peace and tranquility. Yeah. Like in the Constitution. We get that only from the Holy Spirit. It has to be built up inside of us. And then it has to, through our activities and our thoughts and our good karma, it radiates out. And there is no such thing as poverty. Yeah? Does that make sense? No one suffers. Yeah? Because it's the karma. We just don't know. Yeah? Because when it comes, we all go, how and why? Yeah? If you watch this thing, if you see these people, you'll see that majority of people in very hard cases and stress levels get cancer at a very young age. Breast cancer, prostate cancer, bone cancer, leukemia, all kinds of diseases. And it's just totally, it's a shock. It is a shock because we're not to have any diseases, not arthritis, nothing, not diabetes, nothing. Yeah. But yet, on an average, when you reach 40 years old, you have a good chance you're going to keel over or get cancer. And your whole dream goes to hell. Yeah, you're trying to pay your bills with leukemia. Yeah. Yeah, it's bad karma. Yeah. And we can't just go, well, let's buy our way out of it. Instant fix. We got to change our ways. Yeah. We got to get rid of our pets. We have to get rid of our belief system behind that relationship. We have to do animal husbandry and choose the animals that provide to us and we provide to them. It's a relationship, an equal relationship. Yeah. If you live in a hostile area, where other animals are at, it's good to have a dog. It'll protect you. Yeah. But it's outside where it'll see these problems and deal with these problems and you're safe. Yeah. But it's not an inside job, to where it's there at your feet and dying of old age and getting all the same diseases you got. Yeah. Animals do not deserve that. They have rights. Yeah. And if I don't explain this to you, you won't get, the clarity to know that, oh, wow, clearly that's not a good idea, But if it's given to you in different ways, then you won't get that clarity, and you'll still consider, or reconsider, or it just leaves your mind. Yeah, and it doesn't affect humanity. And I speak in the Holy Spirit, so my words express, my energy from my hand goes into this form. My thought form energy goes into all things I see or think of, and it blesses them. That's good karma. We can all do this. Yeah. We can all turn this thing around, yeah, if people can follow my understanding, yeah, and do these simple things, yeah. And whatever you do, don't vote for Trump. Okay, let's do a meditation. Okay, just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Let the forces of light bring illumination to mankind. Let the spirit of peace be spread abroad. May humanity of goodwill everywhere meet in a spirit of cooperation. May forgiveness on the part of all mankind be the keynote at this time. Let power attend the efforts of the great ones. So let it be, and help us do our part. Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of mankind. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and come say, come forth, Almighty One. Let the souls of mankind awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of the woe has come. Come forth, Almighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, Almighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, Almighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of mankind. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of mankind. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, a purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of mankind, let the plan of love and light work out. Light and love and power restore the plan on earth. The sons of men are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not to hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and let life and all events and bring forth to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come in insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavage be gone. Let love prevail. Let all mankind love.
Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. Wake them up. All right, so we have a lot that's going to happen over the next 20 to 30 years. And I'm going to make myself, since I'm here, at this point in time, I'm going to begin making myself more available, where I will teach and I will travel. I'm going to begin to start working with Native Americans in a very, very, very large way. And I'll start working with Tibetans that work with Native Americans in a very large way. And we'll blend those two things together. And we won't be talking about Tibetan Buddhism. We'll be talking about the Native American story, you know, and what it's about. And then that's going to add my help into the process of our nation, you know, this wonderful United States. And because the people who come here are reincarnated Native Americans. And even though you're white and they have a hard time going, well, you're also Native American too, you know, they really suffer from that belief system. Yeah, because they don't really take in the reality of reincarnation. And a lot of their spiritual belief system has been left, you know, so it's trying to come back. But its ability to really understand where it was in the past is hard. So as I come into it, I'll be able to synthesize that with a group of people who are aware of that and are just so far from it, only just 1 or 2 generations, you know, so it'll be a very easy awakening. These are asleep people who are suffering dramatically, but they can wake up very fast. And all of a sudden, their skills and their ability go into play, because they have the ability as a warrior to construct right relationships and communication skills and be able to bring people into right relationship and become brothers and sisters, and not this divisive separation process that we go through. Because in the American Indian lifestyle, over the ending of the last hundreds of years, there had been a great deal of cooperation and blending together of tribes to where we were nations. Yeah, so that all got messed up, you know, by all this coming together. You know, so I'm going to do my best to help move that forward. But in that, I'm going to bring myself to a position to where there's very high level things that need to get done that can't get done unless I'm the person who's in there doing it. Yeah. So I need cars that levitate. You know, I know how to make a car levitate. Yeah. And I know how airplanes levitate. You know, how new ships are designed and built. Yeah. And we don't use fossil fuel. We use the earth energy, and we use the gravitational force between planets and the sun. It's the way it works. It's not a UFO thing, even though when we get to this place, you're going to find out where I come from. You know, I come from the future, you know, so, and I come from the past, and I'm here in the present. You know, so what I'm going to be handing everybody have great similarity to very advanced technologies of UFOs, you know. But everything in the past, they all say, oh, that's probably UFOs that did that. But it wasn't. It was me. Yeah. You know, so I'm going to come through in the next 15 years to help people develop a levitational engine. an engine that creates a levitational field. And whatever you put into that field, whatever is connected to that field, it becomes part of that field. And it has no gravity. It has no weight whatsoever to it. So, and it's controlled as to where it's at, how far it's from here to there, anywhere. It can go through light space. It can travel through light space, yeah? And in a gravitational field, when you're inside such a thing, you don't notice that you're traveling at any speed, yeah? So we're not like in a jet and all of a sudden it's traveling 100 miles an hour and we got Mach 8, you know, coming at us and we're in a 10G and we're dead, you know? You know, that would be a real reality if we wanted to go faster in most things. But in this new technology, it becomes a space that you're in that isn't relative to time and space, to the relationship of gravity. Gravity has everything to do with time and space. So we can literally, in this new technology, we can bring ourselves from one point to the next in a matter of moments. Moments. Because it's not about speed. It's about light. Traveling on the beam of light. Yeah? You're traveling, the machine levitates because of light. Yeah? And everything that we're doing in this technology has to do with the advancement of calm, higher mind, emotional bodies. Yeah? For the machine to work correctly. Because if you're not balanced in that way, that electromagnetic field will do a number on you. It'll change your psychic conscious awareness, and you'll go into different states of understanding that aren't good, you know, because it could be like crazy. Yeah, you can do that if you put magnets around the head and do all kinds of things, change the magnetic field. You can actually be like having a out-of-body experience. You know, things like that happen. Yeah, so that can happen inside of a field like this, and in my technology that doesn't happen because it orients into the Schumann wave, and it totally geometrically aligns to the potentiality of the human form. And so we are light-bodied beings, and the technologies that I'm going to help further is light body technology. Yeah, and it has levitation and has speed, everything you want to do. And if you want to go to Mars, fine, it only takes a moment. Yeah. If you want to go to the moon, fine, it only takes a moment. Yeah. Have you ever seen Jonathan Livingston Seagull? It only takes a moment. It's not how fast you go, it's not the way you go, it's how you go. Yeah. And you know, so there's a lot of things that are going to come together. Yeah, because right now we're dealing with fossil fuel and tires and gravity and inertia. Yeah. So we have to fight against all those things. Technology that I've got to hand everybody is free energy, all free energy. All the electricity comes from the earth, comes directly out of the earth, from above to below, and directly into whatever conduit energy that we're holding that brings that electricity. And you can control the amount of electricity that you're drawing from the earth. So if you need for large industry, that's it, done, not a problem. This is how Tesla saw it. Yeah, I'm not seeing. I know exactly what he saw because I was the guy who gave it to him. Yeah, but the problem is that we don't have anybody here that can receive this overshadowing from me and get it pulled off. It'll take us another 100 years of reincarnation, 3 more cycles of reincarnation of very fine people, very qualified, but you know, we need to move forward and get out of this thing. And one of the main reasons why an energy system like in Tesla's case wasn't able to be developed because the government came in and said you would wipe away our economy. Yeah, it would destroy our system, you know, that we base everything on. You know, so we can't have you do that. We can't have you give free energy to everybody, you know, and we can't have flying cars and we can't have all these things, you know, because they're all free. You know, none of it costs money, you know, and once you own the thing, it doesn't break down. It has no moving parts, you know, so it's just like you just outfit it with a different look, you know, like a Tesla car, except these are a totally different thing. Yeah. So that's our future. We're moving into a place to where we can get rid of a lot of things around fossil fuel and flight and driving and everything, but these are all things we need to do. We need to get around, we need to go, but we cannot continue this in airplanes. And we cannot continue this with even electric cars or auto drive cars. They need to be flying cars, levitating flying cars that work on their own energy, so we don't ever have to think again, how do we plug this thing in, and how do we keep upgrading the technology? I'll give a technology that will last us thousands of years, and we don't have to worry about upgrading. You can work with what I give you, and then all of a sudden, we'll have thousands of years of new alternatives that will then feed right off of that into light technology devices. Everything light technology. Everything, yeah? Computers, everything. Our healing technology, our advancements, everything, yeah, will all come from light technology. And I'll open that door, yeah? I know all the things. I can talk to any physicist. If there's anybody out there who really is qualified, who really is big time, who really does have the backing and everything, if you give me a call, I've got the answers to things you have no idea can be done. Yeah, and you're probably working on it. Probably got some projects going on in the back room, you know, hoping that this might work someday. Well, I'm actually the guy. If you take me in that back room and you honest with me and you show me everything that you can do, I'll show you what you can do next and why it could get to that point. Or that maybe you're going in the wrong direction and we need to just move it this way. And all of a sudden we're working fine. Because no one really knows. We have to use gyros, we have to use the magnetic system, we have to use all these different things that create an alternative way of energy. Yeah, and they're all there. It's just that we don't know how to apply them. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be helping out with, and that's in the next 50 years if I can get a phone call. All right, so enjoy yourself.